So now a lot of times in the SOC environment, they'll set up like a honeypot just to understand the TTPs, and then of course go down this pyramid to understand different tools that they use. And a honeypot, think of it like, so a honeypot, think of it like a honey, right? If you have honey, you're expecting a lot of bees, right? If we don't have honey in that honeypot, then we're not expecting a lot of bees. Think about that in the actual, production or corporate environment where we have data that looks accessible or easy for them to capture, but we are monitoring this network. It's not, if they do decide to exfiltrate data or whatever, it's not going to be impactful to our organization. We just want to understand their behaviors. Yes. So the pyramid of pain, right, is usually used, right, to understand behaviors on different indicators of compromise, which are also called IOCs, that threat actors will use to either infiltrate your network, and analysts use it, right, to understand, okay, these are different domains that they use, right, to either achieve their action of objective, right. So the threat actor might be wanting to exfiltrate data. They might want to develop a ransomware or encrypt your data, stuff like that. So I'm gonna write a little pyramid. So the higher the pyramid, right, the harder it is for a threat actor to change their behavior, right? So we're gonna start here at the very bottom. Hashes, right? So here, it's very easy, right, for an attacker to change a hash, right? All they have to do is probably either modify like the executable that they're using, right? Change some aspect of it, right? And this can be changed. So now you have like other like threat intelligence platforms like VirusTotal, right, that you can use to check up these hashes, right? But if they change their hash and it hasn't been flagged or noticed by other vendors, right, it could come as benign, right? It can come as it's not flagged, right? And now they are able to, at least from an analytical standpoint, you're thinking, okay, this hash is regular, but it's actually malicious, right? So this, we're gonna probably say like, we're gonna say like easy, like the first, like easy one, right? So after hashes, we have like IPs, right? So the IP address on which the malicious threat actor may utilize. So now this is also easy to change, right? Depending like, the cloud service provider or VPNs, right? Threat actors can easily change the IP. So if by chance, like let's say the incident response team understand that, okay, we have a malicious threat actor and they're using this IP and they respond immediately and the threat actor is able to know that, it's easy for them to change the IP and still evade detection and other things like that. So they can match the IP, whatever the case may be, and still evade detection. So we're gonna say this is easy. So now when I say easy, right, it's easy for them to change and also easy for like, at least from a defense or security analyst to detect this. So if we see this in logs, right, this is totally easy to see. Like you see the hashes attached with an executable, right, you can easily check that up, or IPs, you can check that up as well. So this is pretty much easy like too. So now we're going to like medium, right? This is medium. So now we have domain names. So this is not as easy to change. Only simple, or it is as easy. So I'll say this is medium, right? To my understanding, right? This is probably medium, right? They can change the domain names, but it's gonna give off. So let's say, right, we got a phishing email and it's from like a spoof google.com, right? If we check this up on like whose IP and see that, hey, google.com, but this domain was made like a few months ago, right? That will be malicious, right? But it's not as easy for threat actors to change this in the sense that like if they do have to change the domain IP, that costs money, right? That costs money, and if they want to seem legit, they need a .com, and a .com or some other .org seems very much legit, and that's going to cost a lot of money. It's not like a $1, $2 transaction, right? So this right here, due to the fact that it may cost money, and it also depends like how sophisticated the threat actor group is, right? If they're like a nation state threat actor, they probably have the funds to do that. But if they're like a script kiddie, right, they just want to expose something, leak something, you know what I'm saying? They might not have the necessary funds or something that they may be worried about. So a script kiddie is more like, more of the sense like, okay, I don't like Best Buy, right?
Yep.
Or I don't like, let's say their CEO did something that I just don't like. So what I'm about to do now, I'm about to just send them like what 1,000 different emails to all their, let's say all their employees just to make fun. You know what I'm saying? They're not as advanced or sophisticated. When you talk about nation state actor, these in the case may be hackers who are paid to do by like different countries, right? Right, to get certain data, certain information, and they're very much sophisticated, right? They have the tools, they have people willing to back them up with whatever environment or whatever thing they may need, right, to actually cause a impactful that may be life changing or that may affect a lot of people's lives.
Yeah.
Like it might be very detrimental. So that's also going up to right network artifacts or host artifacts on the pyramid of pain, network/host artifacts. So in this case, when we talk about network host artifacts, it's simply like more of their behavior, like more of what they do, and different artifacts. Like if there's a registry change, if they scheduled a task to operate, now you're talking about persistence, you're talking about initial access, right? You're talking about reconnaissance, how exactly will they, scope your environment, and different things that you may have to look for as an analyst to better understand. Again, that's when talking about that baseline. What tool or what type of command lines does my admin usually use, right, within my environment? Talking about network, what ports do we usually allow open within our environment? What protocols do we use for most of our communication via the internet? We talking about host artifacts. It may be like memory. Like I mentioned, registry changes, schedule tags, now to add persistence, different executables that may be on your environment. So this right here is not as easy because as we go up, you're going to see why. But this is not as easy for them to change because this is how they would, or their process of going into an environment, right? So this is like, I'm going to say medium to. So now we have tools. Right, so tools is their actual software that's dedicated or they use to drive their mission, right? So it could be their own code, right? It can be an actual dedicated software. It can be like a C2 server, right? Command and control that they will use to set up like a reverse shell. And that's just simply saying, hey, if you click this link, right, we're gonna make that network connection to our environment compared to whatever you think this link might be taking you to. Right? So they might have different frameworks that they utilize to help them either carry out the rest of these, right? Or they can deploy these via those tools, right? So this now is a lot more harder for an analyst or for even a SOC team to detect because it takes time. You have to understand, okay, the different artifacts, and over time you get to get a map out, like you were talking about, like the trend. Okay, this is how they do things, right? So this is a bit, let's say this is pretty hard, right? This is pretty hard for a threat actor to change because again, we're talking about money, right? If it's a nation state group, right, and they're being funded a lot of money for these different type of tools, they can't just make a turnaround. You know what I'm saying? They get to make a turn. Okay, we're going to use a different tool. They have to build it, make sure it works the way it's supposed to work, right? So it makes it a lot more harder for threat actors to change it, and also make it a lot more harder for threat hunters and stuff to understand, okay, or to look for because they have to understand their behavior, and that's where we go to TTPs. Right, and TTP stand for technique, tactics, and procedures, right? And this, right, specifically is their behavior. What are they really trying to do? So you have things like the MITRE ATT&CK framework, right, that maps out, again, and also utilizes the cyber chain, right, to understand their behavior. What are they trying to do within my environment? Okay, we have this nation state group, let's say it's called APT 41. What do they do within our environment? Like, what are they looking for? Each threat actor has a objective or what they're trying to do. And with TTPs, right, this is just understanding their behaviors, understanding their action of objective. Okay, we have classified, based on this behavior, we are expecting this result. So now a lot of times in the SOC environment, they'll set up like a honeypot just to understand the TTPs and then, of course, go down this pyramid to understand different tools that they use. And a honeypot, think of it like, think of it like a honey, right? If you have honey, we're expecting a lot of bees, right? If we don't have honey in that honey pot, then we're not expecting a lot of bees. Think about that in actual, production or corporate environment where we have data that looks accessible or easy for them to capture, but we are monitoring this network. It's not, if they do decide to exfiltrate data or whatever, it's not going to be impactful to our organization. We just want to understand their behaviors. Now, once we understand their behaviors, now we can go to our actual environment and be like, listen, we need to set perimeters around this, that, this, blah, blah, blah. We can work laterally with other teams like for vulnerability management, patch what we need to patch, et cetera, just to understand the TTPs, right? Technique, tactics, procedure. I could be mixing those T's up, but it's technique, tactics, and procedures. And this is a lot more harder for defenders to really understand because again, that takes time. This is how they go in and do a different attack. This is how they go in for their mission, their operation, and stuff like that. So yeah, that's the pyramid chain. So it's good to know, at least from an analytical standpoint, right, these things right here, how to investigate these. Because sometimes these could be flagged. If it's not a very sophisticated threat actor, right, they might not have the time, or they might not be thinking to change a few of these things. So during your investigation, right, it's good to have these, especially when you're commenting on an incident. If you do see something that's malicious, you want to have those hashes, those IPs, right? In many cases, you can block this IP, right? And yeah, so yeah, that's the pyramid pain. LinkedIn, Justin Duru. Justin Duru, last name Duru, and yeah, I'd love to connect for sure.